The narrative starts with our main character. Playing a virtual game together, he teammates have just finished a competition. So now that some people are logging off, the protagonist, is about to follow suit. However, earlier than our main character departs, he opens the hidden treasure trove. A bright light just appeared. Opening it reveals that his golden ticket is the mastery award. Using this ticket, he can enter the Azure. He thought the world was a bad place. Payoff in a fraud, but intrigue persisted in his head. So if he continued to his amazement, he was immediately sucked into a black hole. Not long after, he awakens in a field and observes that he is near to on the 10-mile hill. This confuses him about the beginner's village, because he recalls turning off his VR. However, he discovers that he is lacking a VR, a gadget with him, but he had not prepared for possible transmigration. Yet he wasn't quite ready to turn evil, because he believed that there was a monster would undoubtedly involve some fraud. If not, a slime may get better on its own, but he was erroneous because the slime sat on him to death. A goblin used it to smash his skull, mallet, and even a skeleton at the same level. This result easily defeated him, enormously demoralizes him, and the only benefits from his transmigration by that his resurrection is quite quick. After passing away, even the slime who already killed him a bunch of times. But with this, he'll soon be at level 3, thinks he could level up as well, but then he realizes he is the most vulnerable monster in this location. Yet it still didn't stop him from figuring out a substitute. Leveling up, 2 seconds elapse. Thrill seekers are performing their basic duties and are battling some skeletons. Knight eliminates the skeletons with success. He was just leaving the person in front of him. The mage notices that because it's towards the back, the remaining skeleton creature is acting strangely. A little odd, but the knight explained the fact that all the characters in Azure are a skeleton acting hyper-intelligently. Strangely surprised isn't strange. The skeleton in front of him swatted him away, insulting the knight just a little, but that was insufficient, and the main character receives a few items from the nearby bush and erects a sign labeling him a fool. The knight now realizes he must prevent this. He charges towards him, causing him to slip. A smiling skeleton explains his strategy without any hesitation. He taps out, leave the area, and allow the other, since the skeleton has been doing his dirty work. The creature's hatred wakes at night. When the Azure creatures come to life, they'll give hate priority, attacking players within a certain range. If you kill them, you gain experience, shared by everyone who participates. He knew this because he aided in the killing. He has played for Azure for 10 years. Thus he is well-versed in everything. Even if he turned into a monster here, he can still utilize it and come up with something. Soon learn the truth about his transmigration. After leveling up, the initial action he will kill when he reaches level 3. That slime 10,000 times in the meantime. The beginners on the World Channel forum are dissatisfied with the level 5 skeleton, who is causing this uproar by bothering them. Attracted a level 25 knight's attention, so he did it without hesitation. Claims he will assist them in dealing atop the 10-mile slope with the skeleton. The protagonist is taking in the sun, his cards along with his own slave filth. He was successful in taming them because of their intelligence rises as they level up, succeeds as well, allowing him to finally instruct them and converse with them. Yet the level 25 bug makes his day miserable. Knight sneaks up on him and assaults. He was unable to run at all and was fortunate for killed there and then. Upon his death, only half of the experience with this has made him realize. He was being overly conceited, yet he is aware not to ignore this issue, therefore he prepares to earn that much money in one night. However, slime living in the game for he realized that 2 days had passed after 8. Past in reality, he became aware of his immediately. A way to escape was required, because he thought his parents must be worried even little about him, but his presumptions were completely false. Since his parents are having fun vacations without being concerned about him, they didn't even care to message in the slightest as the main character makes a decision to swiftly level up so he can. When he reached level 20, he switched jobs, will receive his human body, and soon after taking on a group, he seeks vengeance and take care of a lot of monsters. After continuously doing this, he reached level 20 in just 1 day, and he is already simply needs to switch careers in the major city. Consequently, he went there, but as expected, at the gate, the guards stopped him, and without a doubt he died on the place, but does not instantly reappear. His passing eliminates half of the enjoyment gained. He returns to level 10. He now understands how foolish he is as he just recently realized that he is a monster. At the Devil Wolf Valley shortly after, the explorers are not enjoying themselves. Attempting to cope with the wolves but failing, they withdraw from the challenge. Must gather wolf fur in order to switch classes as they were. The archer discusses their approach, spotted some skeletons ganging up. They pile up on a lone wolf and viciously tackling it collaboratively to astonish the archer to see it. Although the wolf was not visible to him, going to surrender without a struggle saw it. As its defense and attack, it was furious, becoming more acute as it prepared to bring down his adversaries alongside him to the trying to communicate with his teammates, Archer, regarding what is occurring, but they were still discussing the contrast between wolf fails to finish off its adversaries and was breached from behind this, made the archer more agitated as a result. His teammates came to a stop discussions and headed to the location where the archer is emphasizing their shock. Monsters were catching and eating other monsters, and were far more skilled hunters than they could be. During this time, a new player has just upon entering the game, Pixie greets you, exposes him to this incredible, access the VR environment as you're there. Even coordinate his 5 senses, combining touch and delicious food with the simultaneous scent of flowers. There are no recurring jobs in Azure. Players must interact with NPCs directly in addition to triggering interactions, missions from the incredibly smart AIs. He can decide to enroll in an academy, enhancing his own abilities and acquiring. There are 5 people in the Azure world. Fundamental skills in this life that are regulating natural forces, taming creatures, engineering, and martial arts. Each skill has related abilities and nearly endless opportunities for him to mix several skills in Azure's. He can undoubtedly find the in the virtual world ability that best suits him following the introduction of fundamentals to him. Pixie will soon direct him to use to his fundamental motions to do this, the new player to proceed to the 10-mile slope novice training camp and kill 10 low-level monsters. When he had finished it, he could return. Finish his objective after learning this. Was giddy with anticipation and anticipations, but this came quickly, decreased once he'd been through the portal and saw every senior official. Skeletons stood around, ready to leap on him. He became perplexed and put down his sword, which in front of these he ought not to do. The skeletons are now helpless and easily surpassed him on all aspects, and that sealed his end of few. Afterward, the skeletons are joyful. Then the main, while lugging their loose figure, hands the tiny skeleton over, directing him to distribute pamphlets to the other skeletons. Them and everyone must utilize the identical tools aside from persons with a distinctive bodily type. All other skeletons must appear similar to him. The same, and when he observes senior players, he must adhere to the rules as specified in this guide. Everyone must adhere to Fee's rules initially. Should pick an alternative course of action. When skeletons trying to escape have a speed that is faster than average, thus, it will be difficult for most players to catch up. If the player is a level 5 or higher or lower than 30, entice them to the rendezvous point and get ready for a 10-to-1 match like the third player's practice methods has attained level 30 or switch classes. Already have a record of their player ID who rush in the direction of the goblin camps. The goblins attack after becoming enraged. Once the gamer is at a high level handled, they will still benefit in some experience, suggests that the advanced players won't be able to perform anything unanticipated happening to them. His master is not popular with the skeletons. This proposal stunned him, but he cannot act yet. Inquire as to why the young man clarifies that individuals lack reading comprehension, which even more astonished him. So he improvised and only gave them moral instruction, which they realized surprisingly quickly after that he informs them he is leaving. They for a time and place the young man, the lone member of the crew, is in control. Inquires as to why he must depart, and he explained that they can see the sky. Is merely a small yet, and that the sky is actually outdoors. Enormous given how big the Azure world is. That a shortage persists even now, athletes in various cultural groups. He then tells the young man, intertwine, that once he attains a sufficient level, there will come a moment when he will leave and observe the vast rivers and mountains. The tiny guy's reaction to this statement was eyes sparkle with optimism about the future, while the protagonist chuckles as he notices he is speaking to us suddenly about this, but Asher is actually. He feels almost exactly like all of them, can truly reflect upon it later. The touching moment when he says his bids them all farewell and departs from the place. Nevertheless, after some time he returns, because he brought the packages by accident, filled with cheap armor that they'd taken off those inexperienced athletes instead of the necessary components for his transfer was a waste of his search efforts. As the scene changed, it was cool. Mage is pursuing a rabbit and is attempting to cast a curse of beast taming on it. If she was unaware of our primary, someone is in the bushes and it is I am anticipating her casting the curse. In light of this, as she released it towards he receives and knocks the bunny out, instead turning him into a pet. As the system, the mage's companion. Thank her for achieving a level. She got a skeleton monster as a pet. So then she will treasure her first pet, the most significant supporter, and will travel with throughout the entire period of her stay. And instead of enjoying this game, She fell to the ground and began to crying so hard that the main character,